بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رب زدني علما رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير ثم أما بعد والحمد لله. Carrying on from where we left off last lesson in our recital of the Hadith from Riyadus Saliheen, today we are on 1505, number 1505, and this is the chapter of the miracles of the pious, the karamat of awliya, and we've read some of them in our previous lesson, and inshallah we'll read some more. There are some long hadith in this chapter, and for those very long ones I will just recite for you the English translation, because the Arabic we'll probably not understand for the most part. So it says 1505, Jabir ibn Samurah radiallahu anhu arda narrated that the inhabitants of Kufa, Jabir ibn Samurah narrates that the people of Kufa complained to Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab, meaning at the Khilafah, during the Khilafah al-Rashidun, and during the Khilafah of Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu arda, who was the second of the Khulafa al-Rashidun, they complained to Sayyidina Umar saying against Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas. Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas was the governor of Kufa, and so they complained to Sayyidina Umar saying Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas they sent some complaints about him. So Sayyidina Umar told Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas that you should leave your post, and instead of Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas, he appointed Ammar radiyallahu anhu arda as the now new governor. Okay, so what happened after that is, of course, we need to investigate, and Sayyidina Umar wanted to investigate what the complaints were about. Their complaints was that he did not even conduct the prayers properly. So they wanted to make an excuse, and they wanted to make some sort of complaint, and they said that he doesn't conduct the prayers properly and doesn't lead the prayers properly. And this is, of course, not expected from one of the earliest supporters of Islam during the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu arda, one of the greatest warriors and one of the greatest Sahaba from the companions of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So this was not an untrue claim, but of course Sayyidina Umar must investigate, because this is a formal complaint that came to him. So the complaint was that he did not even conduct the prayers properly. Umar radiallahu anhu arda sent for Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas and said to him, "Oh Abu Ishaq is his kunya. He said, "Oh Abu Ishaq, the people claim that you do not offer the prayer properly, you're not praying properly, you're not leading them in salah properly." So Sa'ad radiallahu anhu arda replied, "By Allah, wallahi, I observed the prayer according to the prayer of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I prayed exactly like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I don't know what they're talking about. I pray exactly like the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I make no decrease on it, nor do I make no decrease in it." He says that I prolong the standing in the first two rak'ah as is supposed to. The first two rak'at of any salah, especially in the 4 rak'at and the 3 rak'at salah, the first two rak'at are supposed to be longer. So he said, I prolong the standing in the first 2 rak'at in Isha prayer and shorten the last 2. Umar radiallahu anhu arda said, that is what I thought of you, O Abu Ishaq, that I would have known if you were to shorten your prayer. I myself can understand, because of course they know each other. And Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu arda is aware of the piety and the dignity and the honor and the dedication of Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu arda. So he wanted to understand what the complaint is coming for. What's the reason? So from the diligence and from the due diligence of Sayyidina Umar, he wanted to actually find out what the issue seems to be. So what did Sayyidina Umar do? Did he just take Abu Ishaq and Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas' word for it and just discard the complaint, even though they're long-time friends and he's from the earliest of Sahaba? No. To be fair and to be just and to be transparent, he sent a researcher, someone to collect information and to find out why is the complaint then actually coming. So he sent with him a man or some men to Kufa to investigate the matter about him. The inquiry was conducted in every single masjid. Every single masjid they went and said, "What's wrong? Do you have any complaint about Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas? What's the problem? Is there any complaint?" So they went to investigate the matter about him. The inquiry was conducted in every single mosque, and all the people in the masajid throughout the Kufa, they praised him. They said, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas is a great man, he's a great leader. They didn't acknowledge the complaints that were sent about him to Sayyidina Umar. Okay, so they praised him. But in the mosque of Banu Abs, there was one particular mosque, a man by the name of Usama ibn Qatada. So one man came. One man had an issue. So he came and he said, he stood up and said, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. Okay, so he's making a complaint. Everyone else said, good, he's excellent. And they praised him. But this Usama ibn Qatada, he stood up and said, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas did not participate in the fights and the wars that he's supposed to participate in. And he did not distribute the spoils equitably, meaning he's not fair in how he distributes the spoils of war, the remnants of war, and he's not fair with his people. And he did not judge justly, meaning when he judges between people, when he serves as a qadi and a judge between people, he is not fair. So 3 complaints consecutively, he made 3 complaints about Sayyidina Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. So then what happened? After that? On this, Sa'd was very upset. Sayyidina Sa'd was very upset, and he was very, he was very upset in the fact that he has received these complaints, which are not true about him. These are accusations. So, because he made 3 complaints about him, this man, which is Usama ibn Qatada, Sayyidina Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas said, okay, if what you say to be, what you're claiming about me is true, then I will make 3 du'as. I shall make 3 supplications in respect to him. Oh Allah. So the dua is, oh Allah, if this servant of yours, Usama ibn Qatada, if he is a liar and making false accusations against me and a seeker of notoriety, he's just trying to get famous. Sometimes when you come with gossip and come with these kind of accusations, many people, they just come with accusations and try to tarnish someone, defame someone to become famous themselves and to become popular and to be interviewed. And even today, nowadays, we find that every now and then. So he said, the first dua Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu is making, oh Allah, if this person is a liar and they're just trying to get famous from this, then prolong his life. Prolong his life. You might be thinking, what's wrong with prolonging your life? Prolong his life and lengthen his period of adversity. Prolong his life, but make his life a difficult life. And afflict him with trials. So make his life long, and make his life full of difficulties, and make him have a lot of fitna in his life. And fitna, as you know, is of 2 types. One type of fitna that challenges your faith, what is called fitna of shubhat. Like challenges of your faith, like doubts about Allah, doubts about qadar, doubts about malaika, doubts about qiyamah, and so on. These are called shubhat. These are one type of challenges, one type of fitna. And then there is another type of fitna which is called shahawat, like desires. Someone has a desire of this or desire of that, sins of the eyes, sins of the ears, and so on. So Allah, he made dua to Allah. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas made 3 dua. Oh Allah, if this person is lying and making false accusation against me, then make his life long and make it full of fitna and make it full of difficulty. So then what happened to this man? What happened to this man, Usama ibn Qatada? What was the result of the dua? Thereafter, when the man was asked about, so then what happened about him is that prolong his life and period of adversity. Okay, yeah. So then, and this became true. The dua was accepted. So when the man was asked about his condition, he would say, I am an old man, afflicted with many trials, and I have been overtaken by the curse of Sa'd. Meaning he was lying. He was trying to make up a false rumor about Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas to remove him from leadership. Abdul Malik ibn Umayr, a sub-narrator, said, I saw this man with eyebrows hung over his eyes as a result of his old age, and he would walk aimlessly, cuddling and teasing the girls. Meaning he became a lowlife. Even though he's old in age, his dua that he made, Sayyidina Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas made that give him a lot of trials in his life and difficulty in his life. He was just an old man. As an old man, he's supposed to be respected. He's supposed to be loved. He's supposed to be appreciated. But because of the evil crime that he committed against Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, and because of the dua that he made against him, he became one of the low lives and one of the very disliked people in the community and the dua. So the point being, and the shahid here is that we are learning about the miracles or the amazing things which Allah shows in the hands or by permission. So by his permission, of course, he shows in the hands of some of his pious servants. These are called karama. So we see the Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, of course, was a friend of Allah. He was a Sahabi, he was pious, he was devout. And so when he made this dua against his man, he was accepted straight away. And we learn from the Hadith Qudsi that one of the benefits of being a close friend and servant of Allah, from the awliya of Allah, is that your du'as are accepted. And if you seek refuge in Allah from anything, Allah will provide refuge and protection from those things. So again, I remind all of us that when we make dua, especially for the most desperate of our needs, especially for the world situation, especially for your brothers and sisters of Palestine and Gaza, one of the things that will make your du'as more accepted is if we ourselves are in a good situation and a good condition with Allah. If we have less sins, more good deeds, if we are engaging in continuously trying to get higher in our status and our iman with Allah Azza wa Jal, then our du'as will be more and more accepted. The next is Urwa ibn az-Zubayr radiyallahu anhu arda, narrated that Urwa bint Aus brought a lawsuit, a case against Sa'id ibn Zayd ibn Amr ibn Nufail. Okay, so she complained, this woman, she complained against another Sahabi. She complained to Marwan ibn al-Hakam that he had wrongfully taken a portion of her land. So she'll make an accusation that, to the judge, to the ruler, that this person has taken my land. Sa'id said, how can I take a portion? How can I take a portion out of a land while I have heard the denunciation from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So he's saying, why would I take your land when I heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam making this statement, and when I heard this hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So Marwan ibn Abd al-Hakam asked him, what did you hear from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He said, I heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, he who takes a span of land, a small amount of land unjustly, will be made to wear 7 earths around his neck on the day of resurrection. If you forcefully take someone else's land, Allah will punish you significantly and severely on Yawm al-Qiyamah. This is a strong lesson for those who are land grabbers, for those who are occupiers, for those who try to forcefully evict people and try and take their homes. What we see in Palestine and so on. And even like in some other places, wherever it may be, if you try to forcefully take someone else's land, this happens even like in our home countries like Bangladesh and Pakistan and so on. People are always trying to increase their land and forcefully increase their borders and so on. So illegal occupation and forcefully taking and stealing people's land is a major sin, is a big sin, and it will have huge repercussions and punishment in Yawm al-Qiyamah. Urwa said, she did not, so what happened? So what did he do? Marwan said to him, I don't seek proof from you after this. Meaning Marwan, the judge, Ibn Abdul Hakam, the ruler, he believed in him. And he said, I don't need any more proof. Sa'id supplicated. So Sa'id who's been, Sa'id ibn Zayd ibn Amr ibn Nufail radiyallahu anhu arda, the companion who was accused of stealing the land, made a dua. He said, oh Allah, if she is a liar, then deprive her of her eyesight and cause her to die in her land. She's dying for this land. Oh Allah, if she's lying about me, then make her go blind and make her die in her own land that she's dying for. Urwa said, she did not die till she became blind. So she became blind really. While she was walking in her land, she fell down into a pit and died. So we see that the dua of Sa'id ibn Zayd ibn Amr ibn Nufail became accepted. His dua became accepted against his woman because she falsely accused him of stealing land, and this Sahaba would never do such a thing. And so his dua became accepted because he was mazloom, he was oppressed. And as you know, there is no curtain and there is no hijab and there is no delay between the dua of the mazloom and Allah's response. And Allah always listens to the dua of the mazloom, even if they're non-Muslim. Even if a non-Muslim makes a dua because they're oppressed against a zalim, even that dua Allah will listen, because Allah hates dhulm. Allah says, Inni harramtu dhulma ala nafsi. I have made oppression forbidden upon myself even. فَلَا تَظَّالَمُوا. So don't be oppressive over one another. So oppression is a major crime, and the oppressors should take heed. Furthermore, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that الظُّلْمُ ظُلُمَاتٌ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ, that any oppression will become darkness over darkness, layers and layers of darkness on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Next hadith, Jabir ibn Abdullah narrated that my father called me on the evening before the battle of Uhud. So Jabir ibn Abdullah he's from the young Sahaba, and he's from the narrators of the Hadith. He said, my father called me on the evening before Battle of Uhud. The day before Battle of Uhud, he called me, and his father said to him, I perceive that I shall be among the first from the companions of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to be martyred. Meaning the next day is a battle, and he had a feeling, he had an intuition, by permission of Allah of course, that he knew that tomorrow he will be martyred. So what did he do? So he called his son Jabir, and he said to him, he said that after the Prophet ﷺ, you are the dearest to me, O Jabir, and I am under a lot of debt. I have a lot of debt. So I advise you, and my bequest to you is to pay that debt off and to treat your sisters kindly. Be kind to your sisters. So the next morning, he was of the first to be killed. So Sayyidina Jabir ibn Abdullah, meaning Abdullah was passed away, and so Jabir radiallahu anhu is saying that my father was the first to be killed in the Battle of Uhud. So I buried him along with some other people in a grave. And you know the whole concept of mass graves because of excessive death and so on. We see that this was there even at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, because more than one person was buried into one grave. So thereafter, I did not like. So Sayyidina Jabir is saying that I didn't like, and I wasn't happy with the fact that my father was buried with somebody else in a grave. I did not like that I should leave him with another person in a grave. So I dug him up. He dug his corpse up 6 months after, so that he could be buried separately by himself. And he says that Jabir is saying, my father Abdullah was in the same condition in which he was on the day that I buried him. Because he was a shaheed, Allah protected his body. And this is from the signs and from the blessings of Allah, that his body was unharmed and it remained intact, except that there was a scratch on his ear. Then I buried him in a separate grave. Subhanallah. Allahu Akbar. So we see again and again how Allah treats with kindness his dearest of servants and his beloved servants, in the case of the Sahaba alayhim ridwan, and many other cases. عن أنس بن مالك رضي الله عنه وارضاه أن رجلين من أصحاب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم خرجا من عند النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في ليلة مظلمة ومعهما مثل المصباحين بين أيديهما، فلما افترقا صار مع كل واحد منهما واحد حتى أتى أهله. رواه البخاري من طرق، وفي بعضها أن الرجلين أسيد بن حضير وعباد بن بشر رضي الله عنهما. Anas ibn Malik narrated that the two companions of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ left their home on a very dark night, left his home, sorry. They were with the Prophet ﷺ. Two of the Sahaba, they were with the Prophet ﷺ in his house on a very dark night. And so they left the house and it's very dark, so they don't have torches, they don't have lamps, they don't have all this stuff. How are they supposed to have light? It's a very dark night. So what was the situation? That there was something like lights coming from in front of them and they could see their way. When they separated, each of them had one light in front of him until they arrived to their house. So this was a nur and a light that Allah allowed for it to emanate and for it to come even in this dunya while they walked, because of their virtue and their closeness and their proximity to Allah Azza wa Jal. Other narrations reported in Al-Bukhari say that the two men were Usayd ibn Hudayr and Abbad ibn Bishr. As for Usayd ibn Hudayr, we know that he was one of the Sahaba who used to be excessive in his tilawah of the Quran, and he used to be excessive in his tahajjud, and he saw that one day he even witnessed the descending of malaika when he was reciting for such a long time in his Qiyamul Layl Quran. So these are very of course special Sahaba alayhim radwan. May Allah be pleased with every single one of them. There is a long hadith here which I will not read, and then there is one more, 1510. عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال ما سمعت عمر يقول لشيء قط إني لأظنه كذا إلا كان كما يظن. Ibn Umar رضي الله عنه narrated, I never heard Sayyidina Umar relating anything that he conceived it to be so and so, except that it proved to be as he had conceived it. Meaning, as we've heard in the previous hadith in the first beginning of this chapter, that there were many people that Allah gave them the ability to be muhaddath. They had the ability, like عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه وأرضاه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لقد كان فيما قبلكم من الأمم ناس محدثون فإن يكن في أمتي أحد فإنه عمر. that the Prophet ﷺ said that there are some people who receive from Allah divine information. They're not messengers, but they have divine ilham, muhaddath. And if there is any such person in his ummah, then he is Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab. So again, the same message is being reconfirmed in another hadith, that whenever Sayyidina Umar said, I think it's like this, or I conceive it to be such and such, it truly was the case, and it was in that way. Barakallahu fikum. Inshallah, this brings us to the end of that chapter of the miracles of the pious. Next chapter is 254, the prohibition of backbiting and the commandment of to guard one's tongue, and some of the other sins that we are forbidden from. So the next sort of big book, the kitab, the chapter is called the Book of Prohibited Deeds, and inshallah we shall begin that. In our next lesson we shall be after Salatul Isha on Thursday coming. Jazakumullahu khairan. Thank you very much. Subhanakallahumma ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.